إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ثم أما بعد. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one and only worthy of worship, and we pray that we are among those who He has accepted of His servants, and we ask Him by His names and attributes that He forgives our sins and resurrects us Yawm al-Qiyamah, and that He is pleased with us on that day of judgment. Brothers and sisters out there, we welcome you again to our series of Eternal Message, the message of our creed, the message of our life, the message of our past. It is a message of our identity. It is a message of La ilaha illallah. Today, as I welcome you, I welcome the brothers here on my sides, brothers that you've got to know, Brother Ibrahim Kanakiri, and next to him, Brother Akmal, Brother Noor, and Brother Abdul Fattah. Our today's class and topic is attached to our last episode. For our last episode was over or about sacrifice. Sacrifice. Well, today is also about sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice that you vowed to do. You promised and pledged to do. It is called a nadr. A nadr. Sacrifice in general, brothers and sisters, has to be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this sacrifice specifically is promised and pledged and vowed by you for whatever reason it is. Whether there is something in return that you're requesting, or you just wanted to commit yourself into doing something. This nadr can be a sacrifice of an animal or a sacrifice of an act, a pledge and a vow that you will do something that is halal for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compliments and praises those who fulfill their vows. He said in the Quran al-Kareem, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ, they fulfill their vow, their pledge, their promise. And then they fear a day that its evil is massive. Day of judgment, with the presence of hell and the punishment and the questioning. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises the Muslims and the believers who go beyond the giving into pledging what's beyond the norm. He said, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ. Whatever you have given of charity or vowed of a pledge, Allah knows it. So He praises those who go beyond what the normal people might do, to practice more of their giving, of their promise, of their sacrifice, of their will. He talked about the people that go to Hajj. Notice this. They've traveled. They've left their families, their jobs. They've sacrificed their time. But He praised a special kind of those who go to Hajj and add more. He said, ثُمَّ لِيَقْضُوا تَفَثَهُمْ وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُمْ وَلْيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ. Hey, for them to finish the rituals of Hajj, and those who vowed and pledged to do more. Muslims should not be satisfied to do the less, but to do more. And fulfilling the pledge and the vow is obligatory and mandatory, brothers and sisters. The Rasul ﷺ says in Hadith Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, مَنْ نَذَرَ أَنْ يُطِيعَ اللَّهِ فَلْيُطِعْهُ وَمَنْ نَذَرَ أَنْ يَعْصِيَ اللَّهِ فَلَا يَعْصِيهُ. Whoever vowed to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he should fulfill his vow. We have to live in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you added more. For example, examples of another. You might say, I vow that I will fast every Monday and Thursday for the rest of my life. This is a promise.
Yeah.
It's within your capacity and ability, and it's an obedience or a ta'ah, an ibadah that's allowed.
Yeah.
A stage of worship that's allowed. You have to fulfill for the rest of your life that promise. And you're praised for it. But if you were to vow to commit a sin, I vow that I'm going to steal the bank. You're not allowed to fulfill this vow because it's a sin. Yeah. And we'll talk about when it is allowed to fulfill and when you're not allowed to fulfill your vows and your pledges and promises. But from this we understand that you have to fulfill it even if that promise was prior to you becoming a Muslim. I'll be right with you, Ibrahim. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, before I became a Muslim, I had vowed and promised that I will slaughter for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then he embraced Islam. So he thought that he was not obligated toward that promise. He wanted to slaughter for the sake of Allah, not for those statues and idols and whatever. So he came to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, should I fulfill my vow? The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes, fulfill your vow. Fulfill your pledge.
As long as it's going along with?
As long as it's going along with the laws of Islam.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Ibrahim.
Yes, what do you think when we promise to do something, then in case, like for example, you see, when God gives me wealth, next year I will go Hajj. Then you didn't get wealth before the Hajj and you didn't go. Is it going to be like that? Or,
The nadr is divided into basically two kinds. Another vow that you do or say and promise in return for something that you ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a vow that you're just doing it so it can bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not asking for anything in return. So for example, the latter one, you say, like we said, I vow that I'll fast Mondays and Thursdays. I vow that I'm going to donate $1,000 for our brothers and sisters and orphans around the world. I promise and vow that I will help my neighbor finish renovating his house. You don't want anything in return.
yeah.
You have to fulfill that. You have to fulfill it. Otherwise, you have committed a major, major sin. The second one is that you want something in return. Like Rahim said, you want to go to Hajj, and you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it possible for you. So you say, nadartu an ahujja إذا صحت بدني أو إذا ذهب مرضي. I vouch that I will go to Hajj if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cures my illness. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses me with a child.
I will do so and so.
Yeah.
I pledge that I'll donate so and so. I'll fast so and so.
Yeah.
If what you have promised happened, then you have to fulfill. It's a contract. See, it's a contract. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfilled his side, you have to fulfill yours. If it had not been done, then you don't have to do that. But the second kind, the scholars did not encourage, because they said it's a sign of stinginess. It's like you're putting conditions on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to do good.
Right.
You do this for me, and I'm going to do this for you. Even though it's allowed.
Yeah. But otherwise, I'm not going to do it, huh?
Otherwise, I'm not going to do it.
Okay, sure.
It's a sign of stinginess. إنما يستخرج من البخيل. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إنما يستخرج من البخيل. The another is like snatch from someone that is stingy.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
What about somebody who promised to do nadar? Is a good thing, like having fasting for, having fasting for the rest of his life, but it's endanger his health.
We
What
will
do you
talk
think
about that, inshallah, to where there are conditions for the nadr to be fulfilled. Listen to this hadith. عن عمران بن حسين عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. This is how time changed. سبحان الله. خيركم قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. The best of you is my generation. And the generations that come after that. And the generations that come after. Imran ibn Hussein said, I don't recall if he mentioned 2 or 3 generations.
Okay.
Then he said, ثم يجيء قوم ينظرون ولا يوفون ويخونون ولا يؤتمنون ويشهدون ولا يستشهدون ويظهر فيهم السمن. He said then people will come after that, generations after that will come, that they vow but never fulfill their pledge and promise. And they break their promises and they're never trustworthy. They break their trust. And they come to testify without the request. They're nosy to come and testify.
Yeah.
And then the last statement, وَيَظْهَرُ فِيهِمُ السِّمَنُ, and fatness will show within their body.
It sounds like today.
Heavyweight. Sounds like our generation. A lot of heavyweights in our time. But the nether has to be halal.
Halal.
For it to happen. And the nether has to be in a place where it's halal. And the nether should not lead to haram. And the nether should be with something that you're capable of doing and you have the ownership of. After the break, we'll get into the details of this few things that I said in our last statement. Breathe, relax. We'll return, inshallah, in a few seconds, bi'idhnillah, or moments, and we'll finish our title with the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome, my brothers and sisters out there on the other side of the screen. We welcome you back to our session. We talked about an-nadhr. We mentioned verses of the Quran al-Kareem that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises those who vows and fulfills, who pledges and commits. And we got to a level or a time in where we started to talk about when are you not allowed to fulfill a vow or a pledge. When it is haram and forbidden for you to do so. The scholars have said there are 5 situations where one, even though he pledged, he should not fulfill. And he's not allowed to fulfill, not just should not. It is haram for him to fulfill. First of all, the Rasul ﷺ said in the hadith, لا وفاء لنذر إن كان في معصية. Oh, in another narration, لا نذر في معصية الله ولا قطيعة رحم. There is no fulfillment of a vow if it's based on a sin or a separation or a harm towards a family. So if you vow to commit a sin, I vow to beat my friend to death. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I vow not to wake up for Fajr tomorrow. You're not allowed to do that. What you vow, what you pledge, what you promise have to be what?
A good
To
thing.
be pleasant to
It has
God,
to be
yeah.
halal.
Yeah, halal.
What you vow has to be?
Halal.
Halal.
Are you allowed to fulfill it if it's haram, Ibrahim?
No, sir.
Attention
Only
with us.
halal. Yeah.
Second, that pledge, that nadhr has to be within your capacity and ability. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put strains and pressures on us. لا يكلف الله نفسا
إلا وسعها.
إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifted from this ummah al-aghlal, the chains, the weight that we cannot do. A brother, a sahabi, a brother of a woman, came to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, my sister nadarat, vowed that she will walk to Mecca.
She will walk to
She will walk to Mecca.
from Medina.
This answers your question that you had in the first session. That she will walk to Mecca. That puts her in danger.
Yes.
She cannot do it. That's 450 kilometers away, brothers and sisters. So the Rasul ﷺ's response was, let her walk and ride and fulfill her pledge. So he allowed her to ride
Wow.
as well as walking.
Right.
So she's actually walking, but with it also she's riding. And it's considered fulfilling the pledge, fulfilling the promise, the vow. Because she promised and vowed to go to Mecca.
Right.
That addition of walking the distance
It's in
is
danger.
beyond her capacity.
Right.
Yes.
So the Rasul ﷺ allowed her to walk and ride. So if you say, I pledge that I will pay every single day for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala $1,000. If you're capable, you have to. But if you can't, like myself, then you pay to the limit that you can. So I go to the number that I can. You don't say, well, since I can't pay $1,000, then I'm not going to pay anything.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a question. So is there any way to nullify your oath? Like
Not when it's nadr. An oath is different
or
from
vow,
a pledge.
sorry. Yeah.
See, let's say we have a fundraiser. And you raise your hand and you pledge that you're going to pay 500 or so. It's a debt.
Yeah.
It's a debt. Why is it a debt? Because the Rasul ﷺ named it as a debt. Dayn. Someone came to the Rasul ﷺ and said that my relative had pledged to do so and so, but died. Should I fulfill on behalf of her? He said, أَرَأَيْتَ إِنْ كَانَ عَلَيْهَا دَيْنٌ أَفَأَنْتَ قَاضِيهِ أَفَتَقْضِيهِ عَنْهَا? If she had a debt on her, would you pay on her behalf? He said, yes. He said, فَدَيْنُ اللَّهِ أَحَقُّ بِالْوَفَاءِ. The debts towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are more to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Understand? So it's a debt. And you can't get out of your debts. The only time that you don't pay your debts is if you're not capable. Let's say you promised to fast, but you got ill.
Yeah.
You're excused for that.
Excused, okay.
Excused for that. Number 3, أن يكون فيما يملك العبد. That the nadr that you are allowed to fulfill is that nadr that you have the ownership of it.
Okay.
That you have access to it. So let's say, I vow that I will donate with the money of Ibrahim. Am I allowed to do that, brother?
Yes, sir.
It's not mine for me to donate. So I'm not allowed to fulfill this nadr. Rasul says in the hadith, لا وفاء لنذر في معصية الله ولا فيما لا يملك ابن آدم. There is no fulfillment of a vow that is a sin or what the son of Adam does not possess or own. Ibrahim, you had a question?
Yeah. Yes, your last hadith right now, you said, وعد الله أحق بالوفاء. نذر الله أحق بالوفاء. What about if the promise is between two human beings? Like someone told me that he will give me $1,000, then after 3 days he died. And how can I judge that one with his family?
The nadr is different from a promise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's make this clear. The nadr is an actual uttering of saying nadartu.
Yeah.
I pledge, I vow. And this is a contract between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if it meant that you're going to give another person 1,000. But the contract is actually between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it has to be fulfilled. And if you pass away, then it's taken from your inheritance. Before the distribution of the inheritance among the relatives, the debts have to be paid. And this is the debt. So we take it out from the capital before we distribute for the relative. So you take it before his brother or sister or son or mother or father gets their share of that wealth. The nadr has to be done also in a place where it's halal, where it's permissible, or does not lead to something that's haram. A man came to the Rasul ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I vowed that I will slaughter an animal for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a place called Bawana.
What is Bawana?
Bawana is a place.
Location.
It's the name of this place called Bawana. It's in the north of the Arabian Peninsula, near Tabuk. He said, Bawana. So the Rasul ﷺ wanted to make sure. He said, هل كان فيها وثن من أوثان الجاهلية يعبد? Was there a grave, a statue, an idol that is from the time of ignorance that they used to worship? He said, no. He said, هل كان فيها عيد من أعيادهم? Was there a holiday there that was celebrated that belongs to the people of ignorance? He said, no. He said, then أفي بنذرك. Then fulfill your nadr. Why? So no one will assume that his sacrifice is for whatever that was done there.
Yeah.
For the idol statues or for the holiday and celebration.
Yeah.
And by the way, understand from this hadith, we're not allowed to celebrate the holidays of the disbelievers.
Yeah, I got that.
So, brothers, no Christmas, no Thanksgiving, no Easter.
Forgot
No
Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Huh?
Even
No
New Year?
birthdays.
Thanksgiving.
Even birthday.
Yeah.
Because that's not something that we inherited in our Islam.
Yeah.
That's an inheritance of those who do not follow Islam.
Sheikh
And finally, I'll get right back to
Yeah,
you because
okay.
I'm fear
Okay.
the time
Oh,
might
sorry.
end without me saying this. أن لا يعتقد الناذر أن مسألته مربوطة بنذره أن النذر هو الذي يفي بالمسألة. The person that vows does not assume that his pledge is what makes the difference in something happening or not.
Okay.
Okay? Has nothing to do with the fate of things. Rasul ﷺ says, إن النذر لا يقدم شيئا ولا يؤخره. The nadr does not bring forward or decline anything or postpone anything. So if you're saying, oh Allah, if you cure my illness, I will donate $1,000. And then you became cured, you don't say, oh, see, my nadr did it. Your nadr did not do a thing. You would have been cured without it. وإنما يستخرج بالنذر من البخيل. It's just a matter of that you were stingy. You didn't want to donate that $1,000 in the first place. And it came out from you through this pledge. Allah wanted this money to come out of your pocket.
Yeah.
So He used this method to bring it out of your pocket. Otherwise, you would have been cured anyway. If it's meant for you to have a child, you'll have it. If it's not, you're not.
Yeah.
Brother, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what if you say, if you vow to divorce your wife, for example, and then, later on you decide, well, never mind.
You know
So-
your wife is watching.
Yeah.
Or to marry more.
It's not in my case. I'm just.
But I'm just saying, your wife
because
is watching.
people do
If
that
it's a sin,
sometimes.
you're not allowed to fulfill it.
Yeah.
And a divorce without a reason
Yeah.
is dhulm.
Right.
It's oppression.
Correct.
حب الحلال إلا الله الطلاق.
Well, I won't say this is a hadith, but it's saying that many have inherited.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not an authentic hadith,
It's
which
not
is say,
authentic.
أحب الحلال إلى الله الطلاق. It's not an authentic hadith.
Mm.
But if the divorce causes harm, and there's no reason for it, then you should not fulfill that.
Right.
You should not fulfill it,
Okay.
and you should make istighfar
Yeah. Okay.
استغفار
from such
استغفر.
an act. As you can see, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need your vow for Him to fulfill your needs. But at times, it can be used as encouragement to add more hasanats and good deeds. So if you feel like if you vow, it will increase your good deeds, then do so, please. Without the need of making it a condition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfills the need of yours.
Yeah.
For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill your needs without it. So make your pledge, make your vow that you'll fast more, you'll pray more, you'll donate more, you'll be a better man, a better woman, a better person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will praise you in the Quran as we stated at the beginning. يُفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا
كان شر
كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. I thank you and I appreciate you being with us, and I hope to see you again. And I thank all four of you for being here, and hopefully we've learned something new today
Thank you.
for another day to come to learn more.
Okay.
Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.